celluloid, and we're turning it into music and podcast for you.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of We Came From Celluloid. I am Nicky P, here as always with the illustrious, the elusive, the immediate Mr. Brian Pritchard. How are we doing today, Mr. Pritchard?
I am indeed immediate. I am right now. I am here now. Be here now. Yes.
It's a great Oasis album.
Great Ram Dass book.
So we didn't actually talk much about what we were going to talk about today. So today is going to be the Easter egg of episodes. What do you been having on the mind? You know, we're all deep, you and me, in scheduling this here tour, which I think by the time this actually comes out is going to be like a month away, maybe two, or maybe a little over that. But what's on your mind? What have you been watching? What have you been listening to?
Sure. No, couple things that I'd love to share with you that are top of mind. I hadn't watched The Outsiders in many years, despite us having this, Pony Boy song. And got this like hits of the 80s, Anyway, I picked up a new physical media thing that had a copy of The Outsiders complete novel, which our engineer, Michael Seifert, did the audio mix for, right? He went back and Coppola sent him all the original sound elements and stuff, and the mix that is on The Outsiders complete novel version is from the same guy that mixes our songs, right? And that's a fun bit of synergy as well. But the excitement is there's a commentary track on there. I already listened to Coppola's, which is really good. But there's one on there which is Patrick Swayze, Ralph Macchio, Diane Lane, and C. Thomas Howell. The four of them are in a room together, and then they separately recorded with Matt Dillon and separately recorded with Rob Lowe. And as far as like a collection of people on a commentary track, because I am that kind of movie nerd, dude, like that was something where I'm genuinely excited and being like, ooh, I can't wait to get back to the commentary track that I started, But unfortunately, life and business are so busy at the moment that I have so little time for my commentary tracks, and there's some sadness there, certainly, but yeah, at the moment I do need to prioritize these things like generating revenue. That's going fairly well. I don't want to talk about business shit, especially. You know what I did last night, Nick, is I got impatient. And worried about CD Baby stuff, right? And how slow they've been to respond and all this other stuff. And I wanted to go in and make sure there was nothing wrong with the billing info. And there's no way to do that without kicking yourself to the back of the line, Anyway, all that to say, I did last night just go, fuck it. I'm going to spend the $30 on the get this released in the next 48 hours option. I'm tired of waiting. So I hope that, as that was only like 12 hours ago, I hope that like by this time tomorrow, it's finally real. Certainly by the time this episode airs, my word, it should finally be real. But yeah, I was talking to Noel yesterday about merch drop stuff. You know what I mean? I'm trying to handle that on my own, but that will probably be something I need to ask for some help with. But yeah, I want to make sure we're going out, with some t-shirts, possibly some CDs, just because it's the cheapest thing to do, even though I would still buy a CD in a heartbeat. And I guess in a way, any number of the people who are coming to see us potentially might feel that way. I like the keychain idea. Joe from Ironworms Girl makes keychains for them. He brought that up, and I think I'd sent you the text being like, ooh, can we do Puma Thurman as in the Pussy Wagon font from Kill Bill? I think would be a perfect fit for our brand. And if we could get
The design isn't difficult, but the production, as long as you know someone who can produce them, that's the issue.
Oh yeah. That's why I brought it up. Is that's apparently something that she already did for them. So I want to get a quote on those. And I think again it's like, oh, that's actually kind of a legitimately cool table item to have for the band. You know what I mean? Yeah. So
It's funny you mention commentary tracks. Not to go too far back in your little spiel there, but yeah, I've actually listened to my Venture Brothers commentary tracks more than the actual episodes because Doc Hammer and Jackson Public were just so freaking funny together. Like just those two talking, and like when you listen to commentary tracks, it make later seasons funnier because you'd hear these things that came up as like little ideas during commentary tracks that they highlighted there that later become parts of the show over the seasons and the movie and whatnot. They'll make a joke about like, oh, what if we had this character in there, this little silly idea, and then all of a sudden it was just like a little offhanded remark 4 seasons ago. The show becomes a full fledged character. That stuff's always like so joyful to me. I don't know why we're using your CD baby at all when like I have a full label thing to DistroKid that I don't use at all, which allows me to it takes care of so many releases like at a time, and I don't ever use it. So like we could be costing $0 to put it online.
I wanted everything in one place. I don't know. I have all the other stuff there, so it's helpful to have it in one place.
I get that. Yeah, or I've never brought it up is for that reason, but like to the extent that it starts taking like weeks to actually do anything and them not responding to us, I'm like, yeah, no, I'd like to just do this in a place that doesn't ask me questions.
No, I think I made a couple mistakes, Nick. One is that I think the card I originally used, despite I went back and looked because again, it felt to me like it was taking unusually long. I did go back and look. I think that the credit card that I used, um, after I put it in, then suddenly went not over limit, but like there wasn't actually still $60 necessarily left on there. And even though it gave me a confirmation and stuff like that, like that's what I was getting in my head about. And I looked up then last night and on Google and it was like, oh, does CD Baby wait to charge until they publish? Because in fact, as soon as I noticed that had happened with the card, that like another charge had gone through and not enough was freed up, I made another payment on that card, and I'm going, well, that should do it, right? If like, are they continuing to try this card and maybe that's unsuccessful? So, not that I'm trying to defend CD Baby by any. That's not my point. Is that like. I genuinely was going, I might have messed this up. Unfortunately, we live in a world where it's not a phone call away anymore. I feel like the fact that their name is CD Baby means that they probably, unlike a service like DistroKid, they're probably only being used by guys like me that had a relationship established and have continued that relationship. My guess is nobody new is going to CD Baby. Maybe I'm wrong, right? But like probably not. So I have some anxiety about going, does all of this go away? Does my loyalty to them end up putting me in a spot? But I would think if they shut down as a company, that they would have the decency to come up with some sort of succession planning, exit strategy, sell their catalog to DistroKid. I mean, most companies try to do shit like that when they drop the ball, but not always. But that's
I'd imagine it probably would just be picked up in the end and like bought out as a competitor and then gutted. Like that seems like the most likely thing.
who knows with any of it? I mean, that's the same problem with YouTube or any of it, right? Is going ultimately any of this cloud-based stuff, none of us truly have control over somehow guaranteeing that our music won't evaporate from the fucking planet at a certain point in time. That like, let's go a step further and say with certainty it will evaporate from the planet at some point, that it's hard to make it truly future proof, right? For anything we put out.
Well, that's just the internet in general. That's a for instance. What is it? A year and a half ago, Google like is who I've used to buy my domains from forever because it's Google. Why wouldn't I just buy my domains from Google? Um, sold all of their domain stuff to Squarespace. It's a Squarespace I've never had a particular desire to have a relationship with. All of a sudden owns all of my domains, and I have to go there whenever I have to do anything. And what used to be a fairly simple and seamless process with Google is now a slightly more involved process. And like they only handed over the domain stuff, so like some parts of like the ownership of my websites is handled by Google, but not the actual domain registration and stuff like that. So yeah, and exactly to your point, like just when you're in the internet world, you never know. Hey, one day this may be a different company, and you're gonna have to deal with whatever happens when all of a sudden they own all of your stuff or own responsibility for all of your stuff, whatnot. It's definitely a weird one.
Yeah, I've thought about this concept before of different types of legacy projects, right? And graveside QR codes for the sake of simplicity, right? That it would be intriguing to be able to visit a graveyard and scan something at a particular gravestone that then told me that person's story, right? And I think that as a product, that if I was running a funeral home, that's what I would be putting in front of every single person is going. So somebody who is coming to me proactively going, I want to buy my plot. I want to buy my headstone. I want to buy my thing. I'd be going, cool, cool, cool. Let's set up a time to do a narrated slideshow as well. Why don't you send me all of your photos and we're going to put together a simple PowerPoint presentation, and then I'm going to have you come in and we're just going to click through those and you're going to reminisce, and talk about your life. You know what I mean? Like just even something as simple as that, right? Of somebody going, yeah, this was my time on the earth. This is what I did. This is what I cared about. This is who I loved. This is what I made during my time. I think that appeals to people on an almost universal level, right? That people want to feel like their time, their contributions, their life had meaning. And that's one of the ways I think that creative expression, appeals to people, to creators in particular, is this idea of the it going beyond our time, that I want to be able to reach 200 years into the future with a song that we make. I mean, is that ego? Is it hubris? Like maybe. I just know that in the same way that I've talked about those cave paintings and stuff like that are whatever it is, like 40,000 years old, right? And going, so somebody was making a picture of a bear, you know what I mean, on a wall. Why? It wasn't to put it up in an art gallery. It wasn't really to show it to anybody, but like, did they have that same notion of going like, I hope somebody sees this and talks about it on a podcast 40,000 years. Like, you know what I'm saying? We are. So therefore it's not impossible that somebody's talking about Puma Thurman like 40,000 years from now. That's bizarre, but maybe. But the cave painting, for fuck's sake, is not living in the cloud. It's etched in stone, in a very real way. I don't know how to do that with our work. You know what I mean? I don't know how to etch it in stone.
So many things are going through my head right now, as far as that concept goes, and how easy I think it would be to actually pull a living product together. We need to run with that, Brian.
Oh, as a sellable item, I've set calendar reminders. Cut this out of the podcast. Yeah, don't let anybody steal that shit. Yeah, I know. It is a legitimately good sellable idea that to execute on would fill me with joy. It would be a pleasure to be a part of that project for other people and to get to peek into their legacy projects. Like everything about it is.
I'm just imagining actually getting people to visit freaking graveyards and things like that. Like, boom, You imagine the spin-off apps, like, where you go out to collect almost like Pokémon, boom, you go and collect the, QR codes of different types of people and stuff like that. You can actually gamify, like, the second tier of this in an effort to get people to actually care about the past.
Wow, wow, wow. Yeah. To me, it would happen somewhat organically because you've got those people now. You know what I mean? That like I love a good graveyard. I really do. It's a very they could be for good reason. I think people. It's a weird analogy to say like golf courses, but these are plots of land that I think it's not coincidence that in many cases are quite lovely. Um, my dad drove me over to his the family plot that he bought in Westlake. You know what I mean? I've seen that spot. I've seen why he picked it. Um, yeah, no, it's interesting stuff to contemplate. But part of the fear comes up of going like, yeah, you could take the time to do that, and then what if the link is no longer valid? You know what I mean? That the QR code goes to, right? It's like somebody needs to maintain the hosting and like all of that stuff. And then it becomes part of what goes into, I've already thought about this for my own like estate planning work, which I will admit I don't have that stuff created. I don't have those documents created currently. I have life insurance, but I actually don't have a will that allocates that stuff or sits there and says like, hey, the 15 years of voice memos in my phone. Can somebody make sure that those get to Nick and Brian Knoll to do something with? If I get hit by a bus tomorrow, can somebody please be the steward of all this undeveloped material so that it doesn't just fade with me? That I don't, that there's a sadness around something being lost in time. There's something beautiful about it as well. To bring it back to The Outsiders, that Robert Frost poem, I didn't remember being the impetus, I guess, for that quote, right? The nothing gold can last.
Did we not have that conversation at some point, you and I? Because that's always been my connection with that was
I mean, maybe, but it still hit differently at the moment that it was performance, words, and music, because that's the fucking power of cinema. Even if you brought it up conversationally, it's still like and it's funny because that movie is honestly like kind of cheesy at times, you know what I mean? But it's so achingly sincere, you know what I mean, across the board. And Coppola's no cynic, man. He is no fucking cynic. He's the real deal, man. He's an artist. He's a passionate, dreaming artist, storyteller. I love the man. I think it'll be a great loss when.
yeah. So as I was saying, but that was actually my always my connection to that movie was that, like, I was a huge Robert Frost fan when I was a kid. Like, I just loved his poetry. It's very wrapped up in the world that I come from. Like, I I bring it up all the time. Like, Ben Folds, whether or not I like the guy and his politics, he happened to write one of the most meaningful lyrics in the world to me in his song Army, in which he says, "But my redneck past is nipping at my heels." And while I've always been someone who kind of did my best to escape, the small town agrarian type world that I come from, there's a certain degree to which is like the older I get, I realize how awesome having that background is. And this thing that like I've tried most of my life to shun will always be a part of who I am. And it's just a weird sort of thing to have to kind of to grapple with. Like, when I was young, I always kind of dreamed of being, the city kid and going to the theater and being a part of the arts and all that stuff. And but there's always gonna be a part of us like, yeah, but you're still kind of white trash. So, whoever you want to be, you're really the guy you are.
That's got some sadness to it as well. The funnier sentiment that popped into my head to tell you in response to that was just going, oh yeah, I got to meet Hillbilly Nick as you and Levante were talking about your tent camping approach to touring. You know what I mean? Just be like all I need is a stick of beef jerky and a rock to lay my head on. And I'm like, who the fuck are these people?
No, dude. I mean, I love it. Like, yeah, that's definitely. Like I said, most of the family trips that I've taken, like almost always, the first leg of the trip will involve getting to the destination, sleeping in at least one, like, you know, roadside stop or whatever. We'll just pull off the road, sleep in a rest area for the evening, and then finish the trip the next day. And then usually we wait till the day, like when we're on our way back from wherever our destination was, to use like Airbnbs or camping and stuff like that. Usually it's camping because it's cheaper and more fun, less people to deal with. But the idea being, it's like, oh, well, we're gonna catch all of our like rest and relaxation on the way back. I just want to get to this place and do this thing. Me and Levy actually had a good conversation yesterday when we were walking, kind of about just like the whole travel thing and like what it is and what it means, and obviously the obvious differences between your experiences in travel and ours. Like we when we talk now, like you can tell that you're used to kind of stopping when it feels natural, I guess, in a trip. Whereas I normally have every exit and every specific gas station on the specific exit planned out that I'm going to stop at based on my trust of particular franchises to maintain bathrooms and things like that. It's like,
Right.
oh, I'm never just going to pick a random gas station. I'm going to pick the gas station that has the best chance of having showers and that kind of stuff.
You're a sheets enthusiast. Yeah.
Oh, no, no, no. I mean, I actually have a piece of software on my phone specifically does this. That'll like let you plan every break that you take, how long you plan on being stopped there, and like does all the numbers calculating when you should be where at every exact time. It is quite nice to like when you're trying to like be places on time to like it's like, oh yeah, well we thought we were gonna be here, but then we didn't know we forgot. Oh, we're probably gonna have to stop every 3 hours to get gas and take a break, and how long is that really gonna take? Stuff like that.
Yeah. Um, I think that by myself, especially, um, just as a traveler, right? If you sat there and said, "Hey, Brian, let's go on a cross country road trip together," just not musically related, but just as travelers, I absolutely do have the capacity to go lean. You know what I'm saying? I don't think that I'm a diva from the standpoint of I'm sure I am probably regardless of my own opinions, like, yeah, from your Levy's perspective, anything I say almost like would be still like, no, dude, you're pretty fucking fancy. But it's like,
Mr.
no,
Hoi Polloi over here.
I like to think that my needs are pretty like, yeah, low key. And truly sleeping in the vehicle at a rest stop, from like I said, a scenario like that, a lone traveler or with my buddies, that would feel different than with the family. Yeah, no, I don't know why, but I guess there's the safety side of things, there's the comfort side of things. Like, um, I've certainly been budget conscious, in my own ways. Like, we as a family never really took any trips that required flying, just because it's like, yeah, by the time that you're dealing with the flight tickets and the rental car, it's just such a big chunk of money that it's like, now I just can't even go. You know what I mean? Like that amount of money, and you haven't even left yet. You haven't dealt with hotels, you haven't dealt with meals. Just the plane and car rental part, I would always just be inclined to shift over and go, if that money exists, why wouldn't we just have a nicer time at a location closer to home? You know what I mean? Kind of thing. But as a result, I've never been to some places I really want to visit, like Twin Peaks country out in Seattle and Los Angeles. I've never been to either one.
So yeah, I have no interest in any kind of travel other than like playing shows places. It was actually kind of funny. I was watching um Gabriel Iglesias talk to I think it was Shay Shay's podcast the other day. Club Shay, whatever it is there. But he was talking, he's like, I don't vacation. He's like, for me, the idea of vacation is just it's opening the door for somebody else to outwork you and take what you have. And he's like, I don't want that. Like, I want, I worked hard for what I have and I want to keep it. So I'm never presenting the opening for anyone to, you know, take something from me. He's like, now I might, pack a day or two on the end of something since I'm going to be a place to like take advantage of the fact that I'm there. But like, just the idea of going on vacations, like, if you see me in the Hawaii or you see me at some like place in Europe, it's because I have a show. That's the only reason I'm there. And it was like, wow, so at least somebody else like feels the same way I do about this. Um,
Honestly, that seems like a really miserable way to live life. You know what I'm saying? It sounds so paranoid. That the world's not waiting with fucking knives out to be like, let me steal what you melt. You know what I mean? That's fucking crazy.
oh no, it absolutely is. But that being said, for me, it's just why do I need to leave home? I've built a home that I love where I'm at. Like I don't need to go places. I don't need other things. I have my family, everything that I give a shit about here.
No, but do you ever do you find pleasure in sightseeing? Doesn't seem like it. Okay. Yeah. I just find that pleasurable, and it doesn't have to be very far.
Well, you have a hobby. You have a hobby that translates into that. For me, it's like I like nature.
Yeah, but that came later. You know what I mean? The movie location stuff came later. What I'm talking about is like even in Ohio, we've got a lot of these little small towns, like Wellington, Ohio comes to mind, where it's just like, ooh, or you'll drive through these where it's like, this seems like a quaint old town, like that fucking Children of the Corn town we're talking about visiting, right?
Well, I grew up in a quaint old town, so I know what they all look like. All my friends grew up in quaint old town.
And there's something about those that just seems like preserved in time. And maybe that's the thing, right? Is that you acknowledging that it was like where you came from, where you were trying to get away from. Maybe you don't see them and go like, ooh, what is this magical place? you know, so much as it's sort of like, no, I know what that fucking place is. I don't.
Yeah, I know the reality of the mystery. It's like, yeah, he looks like a quaint town to you, but I hate to give him the credit, but yeah, but I also realize, yeah, this is like Stephen King's Under the Dome. Like I know what really goes on in those little towns. They're just the, I've had too many friends move places, and the story that everyone tells you is no matter where you go, there you are. And the bottom line is like no matter where you are, like every place is pretty much the same. Like some things will change as far as like, types of people and what's around you, but like you're still dealing with all the same stuff. So it's like for me, it's the appeal, I guess. The only appeal to me of ever going anywhere is like to play shows and experience that with people. That's the thing I could like to bring with other people. I did wanna also go back, and you said safety when referring to, like, not sleeping in your car, and I just wanna say, Brian, we've both seen the movie Barbarian, so I don't know how safe you feel in any Airbnb anymore.
The curveball, I suppose, of just having, you know, all four of us, two children in the back. Some about that like setup never felt good to me. But no, I don't ever want to sound judgmental of what other brings other people joy. You know what I mean? But yeah, no, for me, I couldn't disagree more. It feels like a big world worthy of exploration. I feel like there will never be enough time to see all the things and do all the things that I would like to do with my life and time. One of the things I feel fascinated by, even at these like rest stops, right? I get a charge when I pull off on a random rest stop because something in me goes, this isn't a random rest stop to some people. To some people, this is like my local speedway is, or you know what I mean? Like this is the spot they see every day. This is the street they're on every day. This is the you know what I mean? This is their world. And every place I visit is somebody else's home and entire world. And there's something about that that intrigues me too. I feel that way just driving around looking at houses sometimes. I'll see a house and be like, there's a whole life, there's a whole world going on at every single one of these. I'll be on the highway going in one direction and you see all the cars that are coming at you on the opposite side. And it's like, where are all of those people going? What are their lives like?
I have the same thoughts, except for I don't care what their lives are largely. I want them to take their lives and enjoy them, and I'll enjoy my life. Yes, I see those same gas stops as, oh, wow, this is this dude's 9 to 5 job, because I've had friends that work 9 to 5 jobs. My little brother worked at a Valero once, and to me, it's like, oh, this is no mystery. This is just like the same thing that exists where I'm from, I guess. I don't see the amusement so much. I'm glad that you do. Like one of us does. And so it's just even back to like the idea of me ever saying, "Hey, let's just go on a road trip." I would never in a million years ever suggest going on a road trip without some type of goal at the end of it. Like, hey, let's go see this one place and do that. There's nothing the road has for me that home doesn't. In fact, many things that the road doesn't have that home does. I mean, I have like hence why I have my own issues necessarily about going on the trip, leaving my wife and daughter behind because I haven't spent a day away from my wife since I met her. We've just always kind of been together. So it's a very weird thing to have to kind of grapple with for me in my 40s here.
Well, I think it's beautiful, and I'm excited to see how it evolves for us as individuals and as a band and as this unit. This is an exciting chapter, So I need to get on the road myself to get out to a 10 o'clock business meeting that is 45 minutes away.
My trainer is calling me as well. So thanks for hanging out, everybody. We'll talk to you again next week.
We came from celluloid, and we're turning it into music and podcast for you.